I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but after everything that's happened, I feel like I need to get it off my chest. Maybe it lol makes sense to someone out there, or maybe it's just for me to finally understand. So, here it goes. I'm Emily, the youngest in my family. Growing up, I always thought we were the perfect family. You know the type mom and dad were the ideal couple, always laughing, always doing things together. Every holiday was a big family event, every birthday was celebrated in style. My two older brothers, Jake and Luke, they were always the life of the party. We'd go on family vacations, host big dinners, everything was always picture perfect. But the truth is, I had no idea how much was hidden under the surface. It all came crashing down one night, and it was like a damn wrecking ball to everything I thought I knew about my family. It was a Thursday night. I came home earlier than usual from a friend's house, thinking I'd just get some quiet time. But when I walked through the door, something felt wrong. The house was silent, and not the comfortable silence I was used to. It was the kind of quiet that made your skin crawl. Usually, Mom would be in the kitchen, or at least be doing something, but the house felt empty. No sound of the TV, no smell of dinner cooking. I figured Mom was probably upstairs resting since she'd been feeling a little off lately. But as I walked past her room, I heard something. It was low at first, barely audible, but the voices were unmistakable. And they weren't happy voices. I stood there, frozen. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help it. I heard my mom's voice, shaking, like she was on the verge of tears. Then I heard my dad's voice. It was cold, harsh, like nothing I had ever heard from him before. I didn't want you to find out like this, Claire, but I've been seeing someone else. My heart sank. I thought I had misheard him. Surely I had. But then, my mom's response shattered me. What do you mean, seeing someone else? Why are you telling me this now? I'm sorry, Dad said, and I could hear how broken he sounded. I've been keeping this from you. But it's been going on for a year, Claire. I've been having an affair. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run into the room and scream at both of them. I wanted to make them stop, to tell them that this wasn't real. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My dad, the man I had looked up to my entire life, was admitting to betraying my mom. I didn't know how to process it. My stomach felt like it was in knots, and I could barely hear what they were saying after that. I backed away from the door slowly, my mind racing. My heart was pounding in my chest. I just wanted to curl up and disappear. The perfect family I thought I had was suddenly shattered. The days that followed were, well, they were a blur. I didn't know how to talk to either of them. Mom was too quiet, too distant, and Dad kept trying to act like everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. Jake and Luke came back from college for the weekend, completely unaware of what had happened. I couldn't even bring myself to tell them. I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't know how. So, I kept pretending. I put on the same mask I always did and tried to keep it together, but inside, everything felt like it was falling apart. One night, a few days after everything came to light, Dad came to my room. He just stood there for a minute, not saying anything. Then he sat down on my bed, and we both just sat there in silence. It was the first time I had ever seen him like this. Vulnerable. Weak. Emily, he started, and I could hear the pain in his voice. I'm so sorry. I know I can't fix this. But I just want you to know. This wasn't about you, or about your mom. This is about me being selfish. And I know I ruined everything. I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't. I didn't want to forgive him, didn't want to hear his apology. But I knew he needed to say it, for whatever reason. It was like he was looking for redemption, but I wasn't ready to give it to him. Why didn't you tell her sooner? I finally asked, my voice cracking. Why hide it all this time? We've all been living this lie, and now everything's messed up. Why didn't you just tell her? He looked away, his eyes filled with regret. I didn't want to hurt her, But in the end, I hurt her worse by keeping it from her. I stood up and walked to the window, staring out into the darkness. It was a cold night, and the wind was picking up. You should ve told her. You should ve been honest. This is too much for her. And that was it. He didn't answer. He just left, and I was left standing there, wondering how things got so messed up. This is just the beginning of a much bigger story, and I've barely scratched the surface of everything that came after. The whole thing spirals out of control from here, with secrets being exposed, emotions running wild, and a family slowly falling apart. But for now, that night will always be the turning point in my life. The moment everything changed, and I couldn't look at my family the same way again. The days that followed felt like they dragged on forever. I'd wake up in the morning and instantly feel the weight of everything. It was like nothing was real anymore. Mom still hadn't said much. She just went through the motions, cooking, cleaning, getting ready for work, but there was no spark in her eyes. It was like she was on autopilot. Dad, he tried, but I could tell he was losing himself. He kept apologizing, like that was somehow going to fix things. I wasn't angry, I was just numb. And then there was me. I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't the happy daughter who ran to give her dad a hug when he got home from work. I wasn't the girl who trusted her family more than anything. I was just lost. Jake and Luke, they came home for dinner one night, and as soon as they walked through the door, I could see the difference in them. They didn't know anything about what was going on, but they could tell something was off. They could feel the tension. Jake, the more observant of the two, gave me a long look. He knew. He knew something wasn't right. But he didn't ask. Not yet. Dinner was awkward. It always was after that night. The usual jokes were missing, the light-hearted teasing between the brothers was gone. No one wanted to talk. I caught myself staring at my mom across the table, trying to figure out if she was going to say something. But she didn't. She just pushed her food around, barely touching it. And Dad? Dad kept trying to break the silence with small talk. I could see how hard he was trying to keep it together, but it wasn't working. When dinner was over, I tried to slip away to my room, hoping for some peace, but Jake stopped me before I could go upstairs. Hey, you good? He asked, his voice low and careful, like he was walking on eggshells. I didn't know how to answer. I wasn't good. I was anything but good. But I couldn't tell him that. Not yet. Not when I knew he was already carrying the weight of this on his shoulders too. I'm fine, Jake, I said, the lie coming out without thinking. He didn't buy it. He never did. He looked at me for a long time, his eyes narrowing with concern. You know, if you need to talk, I'm here. Whatever it is, You're not alone. I felt my throat tighten, but I forced myself to swallow it down. "Thanks, Jake," I muttered, brushing past him and heading up to my room. But as I lay in bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at me. There was something in his eyes, something that told me he wasn't going to let me get away with pretending everything was fine for much longer. And honestly, I didn't know if I was ready to face it. The next day, things only got worse. It was a Saturday, and Dad had to leave for a work thing, some business trip he had to attend. I wasn't surprised. He had been busy a lot lately, more so than usual. But that morning, just before he left, he came to me, looking like he had something important to say. He said, standing in the doorway of my room, "I know things are rough right now. But I want you to know, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I'm not going to leave." His words didn't mean anything to me. Not anymore. "I'm not going anywhere," he repeated, as though he could fix it by saying it over and over. I just nodded, not really caring. I didn't need his words. I needed him to show me he cared. I needed him to fix what he had broken. But how could he fix something that was so far beyond repair? Later that day, when I was cleaning up in the kitchen, I found something in the drawer, a note from Mom. It was folded neatly, as though she had carefully placed it there, just out of sight. The handwriting was hers. I picked it up, my heart pounding in my chest. It was a letter to Dad. "I don't know how we got here. I don't know how everything fell apart so fast. I still love you, but I don't know if I can trust you again. You've hurt me more than I thought was possible, and I don't know if I can forgive you. But I'm trying. I'm really trying. I don't want to lose you, but I also don't know if I can stay in this marriage after everything you've done. I hope you understand that I need time. Time to figure out if this is something worth saving, or if we're just living a lie." I read it over and over, trying to make sense of what it meant. Mom was trying what was there to try. The truth was already out. Dad had crossed a line that no one could ever come back from. But somehow, Mom was still holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, they could fix it. I felt the anger build up inside me. Why was she even trying? She deserved so much better than this. Than him. I was furious with her for even considering staying with someone who had done this to her. But then I realized she was probably just as lost as I was. Maybe even more so. As the weeks went by, the house felt more and more like a battlefield. Every day was a reminder of what had happened. Every meal was filled with tension. Every conversation, even the simplest one, felt strained. I couldn't talk to Mom like I used to. I couldn't look Dad in the eye without feeling disgusted. The whole house was just suffocating. But things came to a head one night when I overheard a conversation between my parents. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. It was one of those moments where I wasn't trying to listen, but I just couldn't help it. I was walking down the hall when I heard them talking in the living room. Their voices were low, but the words were clear. "Do you really think this is going to work?" Mom asked, her voice tight with emotion. "Do you honestly think I can just forget what you did?" "I don't know what else to do, Claire. I don't know how to fix this, but I'm here. I'm trying." "You're trying?" Mom scoffed. "You've been trying to fix this for months, but it's not working. Maybe I'm the one who's done." And just like that, the floodgates opened. All the anger, all the resentment, everything they'd been holding in for months came pouring out. The argument between Mom and Dad that night was just the beginning. The tension that had been building for weeks finally exploded. I could feel the weight of their words hanging in the air, like something heavy was suffocating us all. I stayed in my room, unable to escape the chaos. I didn't want to hear it, but I couldn't unhear it. It was like a crack had formed in the foundation of my family, and now everything was crumbling. The days that followed were full of awkward silences and uncomfortable conversations. Mom kept to herself more and more. She'd spend hours sitting alone in the living room, staring out the window, lost in thought. Dad was distant, trying to pretend like everything was okay, but I could see the strain in his face. He was trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't look at either of them the same way. How could I forgive my dad for what he did to Mom, and how could I not be angry at Mom for even considering staying with him? But deep down, I understood. I understood that she was just as broken as he was. Maybe more so. One evening, after another silent dinner, I decided to take a walk. I needed to get out of the house, away from the suffocating atmosphere. I grabbed my jacket and slipped out the door, not telling anyone where I was going. I just needed to be alone. I wandered through the neighborhood, my thoughts racing. I felt like I was in a fog, not knowing which way to turn. Everything had changed, and I didn't know how to process it. I thought about the family I once knew, the way things used to be so simple, so easy. Now, it all felt like a lie. As I walked, I noticed something strange. There was a small park at the end of the street, a place I used to go to when I was younger. I hadn't been there in years, but something about it felt familiar. I walked over to the swings and sat down, the cold metal of the seat sending a chill through me. The wind blew through the trees, and for a moment, everything felt still. I closed my eyes, letting the sound of the wind soothe me. But then, I heard footsteps. Quiet at first, but then closer. I turned around and saw Jake, standing a few feet away, his hands in his pockets. He said softly, I thought I'd find you here. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He knew. He always knew when something was wrong. He walked over and sat down next to me, the swing creaking under his weight. We sat there in silence for a while, just listening to the wind. Finally, he spoke. You don't have to pretend, you know. I can see it in your eyes. You're not okay. I didn't answer at first. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to yell at him for being so calm, for not being as upset as I was. But another part of me was just relieved that he was here. He was the one person I could still talk to, the one person who wasn't tangled up in the mess my parents had made. I don't know what to do, Jake, I whispered. I don't know how to fix this. How do I even look at them the same way again? How do I forget everything I heard? Jake sighed and leaned back, looking up at the stars. You don't forget, You just learn how to live with it. That's all any of us can do. I turned to him, my voice shaking. But what if I can't? What if I can't forgive them? You don't have to forgive them right away, he said. But you can't keep carrying this around either. You're gonna have to face it sooner or later. We all are. I let his words sink in. It was hard to accept, but maybe he was right. Maybe forgiveness wasn't something I could just hand out like I used to. But I couldn't keep running away from it either. The next few days were a blur. Mom stayed quiet, and Dad kept trying to do the little things to fix it, but it was obvious that nothing was working. The house felt like a war zone, and everyone was too afraid to speak the truth. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep acting like everything was fine when it was anything but. It wasn't until one evening, a week later, when everything finally came to a head. I was sitting in the living room, watching TV, when Mom came downstairs. She looked different. Her face wasn't as pale as it had been, and she wasn't as distant. For the first time in days, she seemed like she was ready to talk. She said, sitting down next to me. I think it's time we had a real conversation. I didn't say anything, just nodded, waiting for her to continue. I don't know what's going to happen between your dad and me, she said, her voice steady. I don't know if we can fix this. But I want you to know that I'm doing this for me. Not for him. And not for you. I have to figure out what I want, what's best for me. I looked at her, surprised. I had expected her to be angry, to cry, to scream at him. But instead, she was calm, like she had finally accepted the reality of the situation. I don't know if I can forgive him, she continued, but I can't stay in this constant state of pain. I need to make a choice. For myself. It was the first time she had spoken about her own feelings in all of this. I hadn't realized how much she had been holding back, trying to keep everything together for the sake of the family. I'm scared, she admitted. But I have to let go of what's holding me back. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to say something comforting, but the truth was, I didn't know what I was feeling either. I was scared too. Scared of what would happen if they stayed together, scared of what would happen if they didn't. This was just the beginning of the emotional roller coaster my family would continue to ride. The pain didn't end, but maybe, just maybe, we were all starting to heal in our own way. I didn't have all the answers, and neither did my parents. But I knew one thing for sure, we were never going to be the same again. The days after that conversation with Mom felt like I was living in a fog. Things were quieter, but the tension still hung in the air, like a storm waiting to break. Mom had finally admitted she needed to think about what she wanted, and I couldn't help but wonder if that meant she was getting ready to leave Dad. The thought of that terrified me. It wasn't just the idea of my parents separating, it was the fact that everything I thought I knew about love, about family, was being turned upside down. Dad, on the other hand, was still trying. He wasn't giving up, not yet. He kept apologizing, kept telling us how sorry he was. It was hard to watch, honestly. It felt like he was trying to patch up something that was already broken beyond repair. He didn't get it. No matter how many times he said sorry, it wasn't going to fix the fact that he had hurt us. He had shattered the foundation of this family, and now we were all just picking up the pieces. I couldn't talk to him about it. I didn't even know where to start. How do you look your dad in the eye when you know he's been lying to you for years? How do you just move on from something like that? A week later, things reached a breaking point. I was sitting at the kitchen table, doing some homework, when I heard Mom's voice coming from the living room. She was talking to Dad. They had been getting into these long, drawn-out conversations lately, but today, it felt different. I could hear the sharpness in her tone, the frustration building up. I couldn't help but eavesdrop. It wasn't right, but at this point, I felt like I needed to know. You don't understand, do you? Mom said, her voice cracking. You think that just saying sorry is going to fix everything. You think it's going to make all the hurt go away. But it doesn't. You don't get it, do you? I'm trying, Claire. Dad's voice was barely above a whisper, but I could hear the desperation in it. I'm trying to make this right. I don't know what else to do. I messed up, and I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough, Min. Mom snapped. It never was enough. You broke my heart. You broke this family, and now you want me to just pick up the pieces like nothing happened. I could feel the weight of her words even from where I was sitting. Mom had always been the strong one, the one who held everything together. But right now, she wasn't holding anything together. She was falling apart, just like the rest of us. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Dad said quietly. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you? Mom shot back, her voice trembling with anger. Why did you do this to me, to us? The room was silent for a moment. I could feel the tension, the raw emotion hanging between them, and I realized something. They were both broken. They were both hurting. But neither of them knew how to fix it. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and walked into the living room. They both stopped talking when they saw me, like they had forgotten I was even there. Are you two done? I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and frustration. I wasn't mad at either of them, but I was mad at the whole situation. Are you just going to keep yelling at each other, keep pretending everything's fine? Mom and Dad looked at me, stunned by my outburst. For a moment, no one said anything. I had never raised my voice like that before. I'm tired of pretending, okay, I continued, my voice growing stronger. I'm tired of this stupid, broken family where nobody talks about anything. You can't just act like everything's normal when it's not. You can't just say sorry and expect everything to be okay. It doesn't work like that. There was silence again, but this time, it was different. This time, I could see the guilt in their eyes. They were both guilty, but they weren't the only ones. I was guilty, too. Guilty of pretending that everything was fine, guilty of keeping quiet and not speaking up sooner. Mom looked at me, tears in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. Dad opened his mouth, but then he closed it. It felt like they were both waiting for me to say something, but I didn't know what to say anymore. I didn't have the answers. I didn't even know if I was ready to forgive either of them. I don't know what you want from me anymore, I said, my voice softening. I don't know what I want either. But I can't just forget what's happened. I can't just pretend everything's fine. The next few days were rough. The tension between Mom and Dad was thick, but there were no more big arguments. It was like they both knew the words had been said, and nothing could change what had already happened. We all just kept to ourselves, avoiding each other as much as possible. Jake and Luke were back in school, and it felt like the house was quieter without them. I missed the noise, the mess they always left behind, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was slipping through my fingers. I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. I didn't know if Mom and Dad were going to work things out or if they were going to fall apart completely. But I knew one thing for sure: nothing would ever be the same. I wasn't the same anymore, and I wasn't sure if I could ever look at my parents the same way again. I just wanted to move on. I wanted things to go back to normal. But I knew that normal didn't exist anymore. It was gone. The days after the outburst felt like a heavy weight we all had to carry. Things didn't magically get better, but they didn't get worse, either. It was like we were all just stuck in this limbo, trying to figure out what came next. There were no more yelling matches, no more emotional explosions. Everything had been said, everything had been laid out, and now we were just waiting. Mom and Dad didn't talk much. They went through the motions, Mom still cooking dinner, Dad still leaving for work, but the silence between them felt so much louder than words ever could. We all stayed out of each other's way, trying to avoid any confrontation, but it didn't make the pain go away. The truth was out there now, and no matter how much we tried to pretend otherwise, the cracks were visible. Jake and Luke were still coming home on weekends, but I could tell they were starting to feel it too. They could see the distance between Mom and Dad, the tension in the air. They didn't ask questions, and I didn't give them answers. I didn't even know what to say. I think what hit me the hardest was the realization that we weren't going to get the happy ending I had always believed in. I had thought that if we all just stuck together, everything would work itself out. But that wasn't how life worked. Not anymore. One evening, a few weeks later, I found myself sitting on the porch, watching the sun set. It had been a quiet night, the kind where nothing happens but everything feels off. The cool breeze ruffled my hair, and I let it. I felt like I was waiting for the storm to pass, or for something to change. And then, to my surprise, Mom joined me outside. She sat down beside me, the silence between us comfortable but still heavy. "I've been thinking a lot, Em," she said, breaking the silence. "About everything. About us." I turned to her, unsure of what to expect. She had been so distant, so closed off, but there was something different about her now. She seemed more at peace, even if it was a peace built on uncertainty. "I don't know what I'm doing," she continued. "I don't know what the right choice is. But I do know this: I'm not going to stay in a marriage that makes me miserable. I can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not." I nodded. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. "I'm not leaving him yet, but I need to figure out what's best for me," she added. "And I need you to understand that. I need you to know that no matter what happens, I'm doing this for me, for my own peace of mind." I wanted to say something to comfort her, but the truth was, I was still struggling to make sense of everything myself. I had been angry at her for even considering staying with Dad, but now I realized that this was her choice to make. She had to find her own way through this, just like we all did. "I don't know if I can forgive him," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "I don't know if I can ever look at him the same way again. But I'm trying. I'm trying to heal." I put my arm around her shoulders, unsure if I was the one comforting her or if she was comforting me. Weeks turned into months, and things didn't magically get better. But they didn't get worse, either. Mom and Dad still stayed together, for the most part. They went to therapy, started talking more, but there was still this lingering tension, like they were both walking on eggshells around each other. It wasn't perfect, and maybe it never would be, but they were trying. As for me, I was still figuring things out. I couldn't say I had forgiven Dad, but I couldn't hold on to the anger forever, either. It was like carrying a weight, and at some point, I had to decide whether I was going to let it crush me or let it go. Jake and Luke were still the same, doing their own thing, living their lives away from the mess we had become. I couldn't blame them. But I knew that they'd come around when they were ready. We all would. And that's where the story ends, or maybe where it begins. I don't know what the future holds for me, or for my family. I don't know if Mom and Dad will ever fully heal, or if I'll ever be able to forgive them for what they've done. But what I do know is that sometimes, the most painful things are the ones that teach you the most. And maybe, just maybe, we can all find a way to move on from this, one step at a time. Life's messy. Families are messy. But we're still here, and we're still trying. And sometimes, that's all you can do.